Well, hello and welcome to my studio. I'm Tim Packer. It's January 3rd, 2017, and I thought this is the perfect time of year to post a video like this. Yesterday when I was painting, I spent a lot of time thinking about kind of how last year went and what I want to happen for the coming year, and also realizing that I'm going into my 18th year as a full-time artist. So after this year, I will have spent more time painting full-time than I was on the police force. And I couldn't help thinking about how I got here. And it wasn't by accident. There was a lot of things that I consciously did over the last 17 years to get to the point where, I've got a career that's successful beyond my wildest dreams, and I'm basically living my dream. But a big part of that success over the last few years is what I did in the first week or two of January every year. So I want to address that with you. So let's first of all talk about what I promised you. I was going to be doing a video that would get you to be painting better paintings in at the end of 2017 and having more sales than you have right now. And so let's just break that down. How can I promise you to do that? And it's actually really simple. This may seem insulting. It's so simple. But when it comes down to it, selling a painting is like selling anything else. It's a value proposition to your client. So if you've been painting work in a consistent manner and you've put your work out there for sale and you've had sales that are something less than what you would like, you only have two options to increase your sales. You can lower your price or you can paint better paintings. And that's basically it. No amount of advertising or promotion or doing more shows or anything like that is going to generate more sales. Because when it comes to buying, what the client looks at is how much they value your painting and then how much you're asking for it. And it basically comes down to, if your price is above their value, they will buy nothing. If your price is below what they value of it, then you have a chance of a sale. So you can only increase those two things, how much they value it and how much you price it. And the only way to get them to value it more is to paint better paintings. So how do we go about doing that? Well, that's why early in January is such an important part of the year. Because when it comes down to what we call talent, or how good an artist is, or how good their work is, it really is a function of how good they are at a number of different things. So the first one is technical skill, things like drawing, brush handling. If you're painting in watercolor, wet and wet, washes, dry brush, whatever, there's technical skills. There's theoretical knowledge. And that is things like composition, mostly composition. And when you get into the details, color theory, how the eye moves through a painting, center of interest, all of that type of thing. And then there is experience. The more experience you have painting, the more you bring to the table with each painting, and the likelihood that it's going to be a little better increases. And then there's creativity. Creativity is, or what do you have to offer that's different than what anyone else has to offer in terms of your paintings? What makes your paintings different? And then work ethic. And those are all things that you can improve upon by doing certain exercises for that purpose. Now, the other thing that's extremely important in painting is passion. That's the only thing that you can't learn, you can't manufacture, and you can't increase. If you are extremely passionate about creating art, all of those other things are things that you can do specific tasks to improve upon, which is going to improve your work. So what I have done for the last 17 years since I started painting full-time, actually before that, even when I was on the police force, is at the start of each year, I would look at what areas were there in my painting ability within all those parameters that I needed to improve. And for me, the first one was composition. I was actually very good at drawing because I had a long background in drawing and achieved a high degree of skill there. But composition, I actually knew nothing about. So for the first few years of my career, that was something that I threw myself into to improve. But there's more than just identifying this is what I need to improve upon. If you just say, okay, I'd like to get better at composition, or I'm going to take a step back here and do what I see as the biggest weakness in most people that are out there creating art, which is one of the technical skills, which is drawing ability. And for most people out there, drawing ability is something that can improve and can improve an awful lot. So let's look at specifically how you can go about making a plan to improve your drawing ability. Because just hoping you get better is not going to make your drawing better. So in terms of a plan, what you need to do is we need to think about behaviors that you can do that are specific, concrete, reasonable, and achievable and measurable, that you can kind of devise these behaviors, set a schedule for them, and then monitor your behavior as we go along over the course of the year. And so drawing is a really easy one. If you want to improve your drawing is something you get better just by a factor of how much you do it. So something as simple as saying, I want to spend 10 minutes a day just sketching in a sketchbook. That alone, 10 minutes a day over 365 years, is going to hugely improve your drawing ability. And let's look at it. Is it specific? Yes, it's drawing 10 minutes a day. It's concrete. Is it reasonable? Well, that's up to you, right? You might want to draw 20 minutes a day. You might want to draw half an hour. Whatever you set as your goal, though, you need to make it reasonable for you. And is it measurable? Well, it certainly is. Over the end of each week, you just check back to see if you've done your 7 10-minute sketches. And by doing that, are you going to see an increase in your drawing ability the first day, second day, third day? Probably not. But it's like going to the gym and starting an exercise regimen. If you go to the gym, are you going to see the results on the first day? No. On the third day? Probably not. And can I tell you when you'll start to see the results? And the answer is no. But I do know at the end of the year, at some point you will start to notice the results. And at the end of the year, there will be a huge increase. And so the same goes with improving your technical skills. And if you were even more interested in kind of improving your drawing, you could say, well, I'm going to join a local art guild and maybe attend life drawing classes once a week. You can get books on drawing or books of poses of model and practice doing that. I'm actually going to do a video down the road this year about drawing and things you can do on your own to improve it. But it's something that I did every year, was look at where I was in all of those categories that I mentioned and which ones I needed to improve upon, and then design specific things that I would do as exercises to improve that ability. And so for all of those things I mentioned, so technical skills, creativity, theoretical knowledge, work ethic, experience, every artist that I know that is successful scores extremely high in all of those. And the reason I kind of mention this, and the reason I mention drawing in particular, is I know I'm going to get comments from people that say, oh, well, I paint abstract art, so I don't really need to worry about the technical skills. And I don't think you could be more wrong. To me, that's like someone saying, I'd like to be a professional goalie, but I'm overweight, out of shape, so I'd like to be a professional hockey player, but I'm overweight, out of shape, and I can't skate very well, so I'll go for a goalie. If you want to be a goaltender in the National Hockey League, you have to be as good a skater as everyone else on the team. You have to be as good a shape as everyone else in the team. And I really believe if you want to create abstract art at the highest level, you also have to achieve all of those skills. And if you want to see an example of that, my favorite painter in the world right now, his name is Brian Rutenberg, and he paints abstracts. They are very loosely based on the landscape, but you wouldn't know that if he didn't tell you. And if you Google him, you look at his work and you look at his website, you'll see that he's also a master of drawing. His draftsmanship is amazing. His theoretical knowledge, his experience, his work ethic, all of that stuff. And so there's a reason why his abstracts sell from $25,000 to $125,000. There's a lot of people out there I know that decided they want to take up painting, and they learn a few kind of relatively easy techniques to just kind of push paint around and achieve, mildly attractive decorative work. The problem is there's tens of thousands of people doing that. And again, your odds of creating great work are very, very low. And in particular, of creating anything that's uniquely you, where you're going to hit that bar every single time. So we've looked at if if the technical skills is something you want to improve upon, how you can do that. Another thing with watercolor, when I left the police force, I was a beginner watercolor painter. I spent a lot of time just doing exercises to master doing a gradated wash, wet on wet, dry brush, blending, glazing, all of these things. But even after you've got your artwork up to a point where you're happy and you're looking at selling more work or kind of the business side of things, then the same thing is important. And I can think back to when I had gotten into the open water show of the Canadian Society of Painters in Watercolor, and I had been encouraged to apply for membership. And this is a very elite juried membership in this, and it had some of the top artists in Canada in Canadian history have been members. A.J. Casson, member of the Group of Seven, was one of the founding members and a former president of the society. When I decided that I wanted to apply for it, again, I set down a list of targets or goals that I wanted to achieve that would bring me closer to that. And so the first one was I decided I wanted to paint 3 times a week, and I made that a priority. I also knew I needed to set up some place where I could just sit down and paint without getting everything out. And then as soon as I was finished, I could just clean my brushes and walk away. And removing that setup and takedown time made it much more easier for me to paint 3 times a week. I also decided that I was going to have to focus on a particular thematic approach and style and subject matter because that's what the jury required. So I focused on doing figurative paintings. And then I also decided that I was always going to keep my best 5 paintings back. I was not going to put them out for sale. I was going to hold them back and have those available for the jurying process. And what that meant was when the time came around for me to apply, I had the 5 best watercolors that I painted that year. They were all consistent in style and in subject matter, and I ended up getting elected. But for every sort of thing that I've done in my career, every advance, not only in terms of the artwork, but in terms of business goals, every year at this time of the year, I sit down and look at it and I really kind of critique, how did last year go? What went well? What could go better? And what are the specific things that I can do on a daily or a weekly basis that are going to bring me closer to that goal? Because this whole idea and this video is mainly meant for those of you who are looking at pursuing this either semi-professionally or professionally. If you're just painting for a hobby because you like to paint, then you don't really need to worry about any of this stuff. That's how I golf. I've golfed 2 or 3 times a week for the last 45 years of my life, and I still kind of suck at it. I'm a high handicapper. I can get around a golf course. And would I like to play better? Yes. Am I willing to invest the time and effort in it? No. And do I expect to make any money out of it? Absolutely not. So if that's where you are in terms of painting as a pure hobbyist, then by all means, you can just paint the way that I golf. But I know when I go out and do talks that most artists I talk to, they really want to improve the finished product, and they also want to improve their sales. So by looking at these things that you can do on a daily basis to get you closer to your goal, because this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. It's like if you do these things, are you going to be making 10 times as much money next year? No, but you'll be a little better than you were right now. And again, like that whole thing of going into the gym and seeing the results at the end of the year, if you make this a part of your regular annual practice and then actually follow through on it, in 10 years, the potential is to see huge results. And the bottom line is the next 10 years are going to go by in your life one way or the other. You're going to be either maybe living your dream or be closer to living your dream, or you're going to be exactly where you are right now. And take it from someone who's living their dream, it was worth it every single second that I put into getting where I am now. So I'd be interested to hear your feedback on this, and I really encourage you, if this is something that's important to you, you want to take charge of your development as an artist and your development in your career, as opposed to just being a log floating along a river, taking you wherever it decides to go. So I hope this has been helpful, and if you want to see more of my videos, you can go to my YouTube channel, and I will see you next time.